All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. And I'm back here. It is now officially Friday, November the 22nd of 2024. A little past midnight here. It's actually a little past 2 a.m., believe it or not. So I wanted to go ahead and do this video because I have been promising this for pretty much the majority of the week, and we are very close to it. So I figured I'd go ahead and give you guys my official AEW Full Gear 2024 pay-per-view predictions video. So as it currently stands, we're about less than 2 days away, about a day and a half or so away, less than 48 hours from the pay-per-view taking place. Of course, the pay-per-view officially, Full Gear 2024 officially takes place on Saturday, November the 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Of course, there's a pre-show or go-home show. Well, not go-home show, I'm sorry. We just had the go-home show with Dynamite yesterday, but they have, of course, the 0 hour. Not including that, the official pay-per-view itself starts at 8 p.m. on Saturday night. So with the pay-per-view being so close, I figure I'd go ahead and give you guys my predictions video here. And looking at the pay-per-view so far, looking at the card, looks to be one of the more stacked cards I've seen of all the pay-per-views this year. Now, as to whether or not it will be as quality as the previous pay-per-views this year remains to be seen. I do think this card has a lot of potential, and I do think that this pay-per-view is I do think this pay-per-view is going to be a quality show, much like AEW's previous pay-per-views throughout the entirety of the year. That's one thing that can't be disputed. AEW knows how to put on good pay-per-views. So this pay-per-view will, Full Gear 2024, will emanate from Newark, New Jersey. And as I said, it takes place on Saturday, technically tomorrow night, because it is, again, officially Friday. It's 2 a.m. here, really early morning, really late night, if you will. But yeah, so I wanted to go ahead and give you guys my predictions video for the show. So with that being said, let's get into it. So for those of you who are familiar with the channel, you've seen me do these predictions videos for wrestling shows and pay-per-views in the past. You pretty much know how this goes already. For anybody who's new, basically what I'm going to do is I'm looking at every match that's scheduled for the card for Saturday night, and just run down it briefly. Not going to get too much into details, just go through it briefly, and then give you my predictions as to who I think is going to win and why. And so that's pretty much how we're going to do this. So with that being said, without further ado, let us get into my AEW Full Gear 2024 predictions. So as we currently stand, there are 10 matches that have been announced for the card. I'm sure they're going to add some more to the 0 hour between now and Saturday. So as we get, like I said, we got like a day and a half. We still got, of course, Rampage and Collision, both of which take place tomorrow, Friday, since Collision usually airs on Saturday, but obviously the pay-per-view Saturday. So there will be no point holding Collision on Saturday and the pay-per-view. So they're going to have Rampage and Collision, I believe, airing back-to-back on Friday night, again, tomorrow night. So I'm sure they're going to announce some more matches for the 0 hour, probably one or two more, or maybe even one more for the main show itself, which they always tend to do. But for right now, according to the Wikipedia, there are 10 matches that have been announced. So I'm going to run through those matches, and if there are any more added, then I'll give my prediction for whatever match is added if I can. If I am made aware of it soon enough. But anyway, let's get into it here. Let us begin with our predictions. So we'll start with the 0 hour match because there's only one listed so far. And that is, I guess you could say it's a special attraction match. And it's something that has been promoted for a good while now, at least for the last week. It is going to be QT Marshall, of course, yes, that QT Marshall, one-on-one versus somebody by the name of Big Boom AJ. And he will be accompanied by somebody named Big Justice, and the Rizzler will serve as the special guest referee. Now, I'm not really familiar with these guys. Apparently, the Big Boom AJ, Big Justice, and the Rizzler, they're all a part of this like YouTube group called the Costco Guys. I'm not really personally familiar with them. I've never really watched any of this stuff, but they're apparently like online sensations, popular YouTubers or whatever. And I've heard a little bit about them here and there. I personally have never watched their stuff, but I guess, they're a fairly significant deal considering that, a lot of people have mentioned them, even within the wrestling community. Apparently, they're wrestling fans, or whatever the case may be. But I personally have never seen any of their stuff or really know anything about them other than, just hearing people mention them here and there. But yeah, apparently these guys are wrestling fans, and they've been looking to get into like the wrestling bubble, if you will, though they're not wrestlers themselves. Again, they're YouTube personas, much like, freaking Logan Paul or PewDiePie or whoever. But anyway, so this is, I guess, is something akin to like a special guest appearance or a celebrity guest a spot or appearance or whatever. And it's going to be on the pre-show. So at the very least, they're not taking up a main pay-per-view spot with this. Because WWE, of course, you guys know this is something that WWE is known for doing. They'll invite, random celebrities, be it B-list, C-list celebrities, and have them make appearances either on their shows, their weekly shows, or on their pay-per-views and stuff like that. WWE is known for doing that. WCW used to do that way back in the day too, and even TNA did it. But this is really AEW. I think. Well, I shouldn't say first because they've had Snoop Dogg, they've had Shaq, and other celebrities make appearances on AEW in the past. So, but yeah, so this is basically akin to a special guest spot or celebrity appearance match or whatever against QT Marshall, who has wrestled for them in the past. I know previously it was reported, I think last year, that QT Marshall was no longer with AEW, but I guess he's reappearing here, or I guess he's now back with the company. I guess I don't know if it's temporarily or not, but so QT Marshall is going to wrestle this match here against Big Boom AJ, and this whole thing has been given like video. There was like a video package, or not a video package, but like a hype video, I guess you could say, where QT Marshall basically challenged this dude to the match, and so that's pretty much what it stems from. So this is probably the one match on this card that I'm really not sure about because I don't know what to expect. I've never seen this Big Boom AJ guy. I don't even know anything about him or these Costco guys, so I don't really know what to expect. QT Marshall, he is what he is. I mean, he's been, for the most part, undercard guy, jobber since he's been in AEW. But then, he's went on to other promotions and done whatever. But anyway, so so yes, it's going to be Big Boom AJ versus QT Marshall. Getting back to my predictions here. Sorry, I had to go off on that. I just had to explain, that I don't really know anything about, this Big Boom AJ or any of these Costco guys. Just had to mention that there. But anyway, so Big Boom AJ 1-on-1 versus QT Marshall here on the 0 hour with the Rizzler serving as special guest referee. And again, I really don't know what to expect in this match. I imagine it's probably not going to be very long. It's just, again, we're talking about a celebrity guest spot, so it's probably not going to be a long match. And, QT Marshall, he is what he is. I'm not really expecting anything special or great out of this outside of just, the crowd popping for this dude. Again, I'm not really familiar with the appeal, so you have to forgive me. As to who wins, more than likely they're going to give it to the celebrity guy, this Big Boom AJ guy. I'm thinking they got the Rizzler as the special guest referee, so it's obvious how this match is going to go. So yeah, I expect it to be something like that. It's going to be something akin to what WWE does with their fucking celebrity guest hosts or whatever they have a celebrity wrestle in match. So I fully expect that here. So Big Boom AJ is more than likely going to go over QT Marshall here. It's only natural. It's only natural. So that's pretty much it for that. So that's my prediction there. And it's kind of obvious that's where they're going. Anyway, that's pretty much it for that. Now we move on to the main portion of the pay-per-view here. And we'll get to the true pay-per-view card. And that being, of course, the Full Gear 2024 main show. So let's begin here. And looking at this card up and down, there are a lot of singles matches. Like, there's only one match on the card listed here that is a multi-person match, that is a tag match. Every other match is a singles match. I'm not sure if that'll change, because like I said, they may add a tag match or a multi-person match later. But for now, it's mostly singles matches. So let's run down the list here. All right, so first we've got a grudge match, bit of a grudge match here. MJF 1-on-1 versus Roderick Strong. A lot of people thought this was going to be Adam Cole versus MJF, because that is the feud that is ongoing. But, of course, MJF, obviously MJF and Adam Cole have got this thing going. And since Adam Cole returned, he vowed to get his hands on MJF. And MJF basically made a stipulation where the first guy to get to 3 wins faces him at Full Gear. And both Adam Cole and Roderick Strong had to go through that. And Roderick Strong won 3 matches consecutively, whereas Adam Cole won 2 and then lost to Konosuke Takeshita thanks to MJF. He didn't really interfere, but he basically offered Konosuke his Dynamite Diamond ring, and Konosuke used that to beat Adam Cole. So as a result, this match is going to take place, and I imagine at some point we're going to see MJF Adam Cole down the line. But anyway, so I think this will be a solid match. And we haven't really seen MJF wrestle much since he returned. Well, actually, we haven't seen him wrestle once since he returned. And Roderick Strong, very quality wrestler. To me, one of the most underrated talents in AEW. I think he's very much deserving of a significant push on the main roster. and I hope so. At some point down the line, he will get more of a important spot, more of an important role on AEW as somebody who is multifaceted, multi-talented, and very very solid wrestler, very reliable wrestler. So I expect this to be a very solid match, and I personally think it has the potential to steal the show. As to who wins, honestly, I gotta say MJF. I think MJF's gonna find a way to win. I think Roderick Strong's gonna get the better of him from a wrestling match standpoint, from a technical standpoint, and then MJF's gonna use his trickery, chicanery to find a way to beat Roderick Strong. We might even see an Adam Cole appearance here. In fact, I expect to see an Adam Cole appearance here. But I'm going to take MJF over Roderick Strong here. I think that's where they're going with that. All right, moving on. So next up, we get another grudge match and a rematch, if you will, from the previous pay-per-view, that being Wrestle Dream. I'm sorry. No, not Wrestle Dream. Was it Wrestle Dream? Was Wrestle Dream the last pay-per-view? Yeah, I think it was. So we get a rematch from Wrestle Dream here. We get Jay White 1-on-1 versus Hangman Adam Page. Of course, Jay White has been, ever since returning, has basically vowed revenge against those who wronged him previously. This was before he got injured. Or, after he came back from being injured, I should say. And Hangman Page being one of the guys. These two guys wrestled each other at Wrestle Dream with Jay White pulling off I don't want to say surprise victory, but a lot of people were surprised that, he went over on Hangman, which I wasn't surprised. It was his first match back, so I didn't think he was going to take the fall there. But anyway, so since then, Hangman Page has, gotten up in essentially cost Jay White, one or two matches. He cost him a match against Christian Cage, and we've seen back and forth between the two sets, and that's thus leading to this match. Jay White called out Hangman Page for one more match, and since then, Jay White has basically kind of really drummed it into, Hangman that he has his number, in singles matches, and so I look forward to. This is one of the matches I'm very much looking forward to. They had a really solid match at Wrestle Dream. I expect them to have another solid match here. I think it's going to be physical. It's going to be technically sound in the beginning, but I think it's going to be physical, especially with Hangman Page in the mix. So should be a solid match, an enjoyable match. As to who wins, personally, I think Hangman is going to get the better of Jay White here, and I think he's going to get the win. Again, I know a lot of people aren't big on 50-50 booking or whatever, but I think that's where they're going. Hangman Page, I think he needs a win here after suffering the loss from the last pay-per-view, so I think he's going to go over on Jay White, and I do think there's going to be a rubber match, a match 3 at some point, probably somewhere down the line, either on Dynamite, one of the shows, or maybe at the final pay-per-view of the year, that being World's End. But give me Hangman Page over Jay White here for this match. And again, very much look forward to it. All right, next up, we get our sole multi-person match here, a 4-way tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The champions, current champions, the new champions, Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, will defend for the first time against the teams of the Outrunners, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd, against the Knights of the Black Throne, or Kings of the Black Throne. I always get that confused. Knights of the Black Throne, Kings of the... Sorry. Kings of the Black Throne, that be Malachi Black and Brody King, and the fourth team being the acclaimed Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. As I mentioned before, this is Private Party's first title defense since winning the titles, which is a little surprising. But they've kind of, they've made appearances here and there on the shows, but they haven't really wrestled all that much since winning the titles from the Young Bucks. And that, yes, I guess you could say epic performance. Private Party finally, for the first time in their 5-year history, capturing tag team gold, and it was a very, very good moment, very feel good moment for them. And I look for them to keep making memories. It's been a long time coming. It's very well deserved, and so they're going into this match obviously as the champions. A little bit of a disadvantage. I guess you could say whenever there's multi-person matches, the champion usually has a disadvantage because they don't have to take the pin to lose the match. But you got 3 other capable teams here, the Outrunners, who a lot of people are really behind. They're up and coming, popular team. The crowd is getting behind them, so on and so forth. So we've seen a lot of vignettes with, the Outrunners with the old school, VHS style, promos, trailers, vignettes, whatever, with them. So they're getting really over with the crowd. Then, of course, you got the House of Black, the Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King, who are always a quality, pairing. And the final team, obviously, the acclaimed former multiple-time AEW Tag Champions, looking to reclaim, the tag team titles, after the for the first time in like over a year. So there's going to be a fun match. I personally think all these teams are very capable. I think they're going to mesh well. I think it's going to be a solid tag match. We're going to have a lot of revolving parts, a lot of different parties, vying for position in this match, and I think it's going to be a fun match. I think it's going to be a solid match. It's going to be very enjoyable as well. Another very interesting and a nice display, if you will, of the current shape of or the current I guess you could say state. It's for lack of a better term, the current state of the AEW tag team division. I think there are a number of tag teams, not just these four, but there's a number of others as well, who I think are very talented and who deserve to be in the mix for the tag titles. So these are four of the teams, including the champions. So I think it's going to be a very enjoyable match. It's going to be a quality, solid outing. As to who wins, I gotta give it the Private Party. I did not see them losing it. I did not see them losing the titles in their first title defense. That would be so wrong, and I don't think anybody would appreciate that. So I got Private Party. They are going to find the way to win by hook or by crook. They're going to overcome the odds here, and they're going to find a way to retain the titles in their first title defense, like I said. And really the first match since winning the titles. So I got Private Party winning the match and retaining the AEW Tag Team titles. Moving on here. So we go from one title match to another title match. We get another singles match here for the AEW TBS Championship. The current champion, Mercedes Moné, one-on-one versus Chris Statlander. Of course, Mercedes Moné will be accompanied by Camille. We've seen these two go back and forth, basically stemming from, Chris Statlander challenging Mercedes Moné, challenging Camille. And then we saw Chris Statlander get the victory over Camille in a singles match a number of weeks ago. And since then, it seems like Mercedes Moné has kind of really, in a sense, looked down on Camille, in the sense that, Camille's supposed to be like her right hand woman, if you will, or her apprentice, I don't want to say lackey, but, that's kind of what it comes off as, especially with the last few weeks with Mercedes Moné's treatment of Camille, which I think at some point is going to come back and bite her because Camille's certainly anything but a patsy or a lackey. And we see Camille basically have her arm in a sling. I don't know if that's a kayfabe injury or legit injury. I think it's like, I personally think it's a kayfabe injury. I could be wrong. But anyway, so we see Mercedes Moné's treatment of Camille the last few weeks, basically using her as a pawn, if you will, and not like an actual partner or, an equal, if you will. And I'm not sure if that's going to pay dividends in this match, but I know for certain Mercedes Moné, Chris Statlander is going to be a solid match in the women's division. Chris Statlander, as you guys know, is my favorite current women's talent in AEW, former TBS champion. I personally think her last TBS title reign was a bit of a disappointment. It ended prematurely, just say, because she lost the title in a three-way match, and she wasn't, the person pinned in the match. So I personally think her TBS title run was a little short-lived, and I think AEW definitely owes that woman, a better, opportunity in terms of, these title reigns. And personally, I think at some point Chris Statlander should be AEW Women's World Champion, as do I think Mercedes Moné, should be in that conversation, especially her being TBS champion for so long. She's been TBS champion since May? So yeah, she's had a lengthy title reign. So I think it's going to be a solid match. I think it's going to be, for the most part, even. Chris Statlander is obviously the more physical of the two, the bigger of the two. Mercedes Moné, very obviously experienced. She's got that experience edge. And so I think it's going to be a very good match. I think it's going to be a quality match in the women's division. And these two ladies are going to showcase just how good that AEW women's division can be. And so I think it'll be fun. It'll be a back and forth match, back and forth outing. I don't expect either of these two to really dominate the other. I think it's going to be for the most part, an even exchange. As to who wins, kind of a toss-up for me. I love my girl Chris Statlander. I want to see her win a title. I want to see her have a legitimate title reign. I just don't think it's going to be on this occasion. I think Mercedes Moné is going to pull this one out as well. And I personally think Camille is going to pay dividends into her victory. I think either by her own, or Mercedes Moné is going to basically force her to aid her in the finish of this match. I think at some point in this match, Camille is going to pay dividends to the finish of this match, be it one way or the other. But I personally believe it's going to be Mercedes Moné who's the beneficiary of Camille's interference, and Mercedes Moné is going to retain the title here. over my girl Chris Statlander, which is going to be a heartbreaker for me personally because I want to see Chris Stat as a champion in AEW. She deserves a solid title reign. She deserves a good title, or a quality title reign, and she'll get it at some point. I know for sure. I know for sure Chris Statlander will be a champion at some point in this company once again. But for now, I gotta give it to Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné retains the title here. Moving on. All right, so apologies if I keep pausing. It's just I got a little sinus trouble. I'm freaking recovering from a cold. It was freaking cold as hell out today. It's been cold, really for the better part of the week. So if I have stuffiness or whatever, or I kind of pause, because of congestion or whatever, I apologize. It's just I can't help it. My immune system is shot. I can't help it. Anyway, moving on. All right, so next up we have another match here on this card that I'm really very much looking forward to. Another grudge match, if you will. It'll be Swerve Strickland versus the debuting Bobby Lashley, making his first pay-per-view appearance and technically his first match in AEW. I know he wrestled on Dynamite, but that wasn't even really a match. It was more of like a squash. It was more like a kind of a warm-up, tune-up match, if you will. I don't even really call it a match. You can't even really call that a debut match. They had Bobby Lashley wrestle against Cheeseburger and some other guy, Joe Keys, I think is the basically obviously jobbers, enhancement talent. It wasn't a real match. So yeah, this will be Bobby Lashley's debut match in AEW and his debut pay-per-view appearance, pay-per-view debut match, I should say. And he's wrestling against Swerve Strickland, who obviously former AEW World Champion, very capable guy. And these two have been going back and forth really since Bobby Lashley debuted in AEW. Of course, beforehand you had Swerve going after MVP and Shelton Benjamin, who were trying to recruit him. And then when he basically turned them down, they went at him. And, we saw Swerve defeat Shelton Benjamin a number of weeks ago on Dynamite. Of course, that was the night that Bobby Lashley debuted. And then since then, the Hurt Syndicate has pretty much imposed their physical will on Swerve Strickland the last few weeks, up until this past Wednesday on Dynamite, where Swerve got one up, if you will, on Lashley and on the Hurt Syndicate, and on multiple occasions. So that's going to be the lead into this match. I fully expect this match to be very solid. Obviously, Swerve Strickland can get a good match out of anybody. And to me, Bobby Lashley is still one of the best athletes in the world. I've been a fan of him for quite some time, a long time, during his TNA days, his WWE days. And that is for good reason, because the man knows what he's doing. He's got that amateur background. He's a very physical wrestler. He's got that MMA background, and he's got like a nice mix of MMA ability, martial arts style, and he's a power wrestler, and he's got a multitude of facets, a multitude of qualities he has as a wrestler. Even at his age, I still think he's a very solid wrestler, and I think he'll show that in this match. And Swerve, him and Swerve together, I think this is going to be a very, very good, high-quality match on this card. And again, another potential show-stealing match. I personally look for these two guys to steal the show on this card. Outside of the main event, I think this will be one of the easily top 3, top 4 matches on this card, along with Jay White and Heyman Page too. So very much looking forward to this one. As to who wins, I gotta give it to Bobby Lashley. I just don't see Lashley dropping his. I just don't see Lashley losing in his pay-per-view debut. I just don't see that. I think them bringing Lashley into AEW the way that they did, they have to make him look good. I think he's going to be at some point one of the key figures in this promotion, and I don't think they're going to give him a loss here. And I know some Swerve Strickland fans are probably going to groan at that because, Swerve lost his last pay-per-view outing against Hangman Page in that unsanctioned steel cage match, and you're probably saying you don't want to give Swerve, back-to-back losses on pay-per-views, but I don't think a loss is going to hurt Swerve here. I think the more important aspect is to make Bobby Lashley look as good as possible, or to at least give Bobby Lashley a successful pay-per-view debut, which I think he will be. And I think Swerve will come out of it good too. I think both these guys will come out of it looking good, regardless of who goes over. I can see Swerve winning, but I just get the feeling that Lashley's going to go over here. I think the Hurt Syndicate is going to, at some point, get involved, obviously, either MVP or Shelton Benjamin, and they're going to pay dividends into Bobby Lashley's victory here. And so it's not going to be a clean win, or a clean loss, I should say, for Swerve, because I do think there's going to be interference. But by hook or by crook, Bobby Lashley is going to get the win here. I don't see them having Lashley lose in his pay-per-view debut. So Lashley over Swerve Strickland, and don't be too mad if you're a Swerve Strickland fan. I am a Swerve Strickland fan, and I don't think this loss is going to hurt him that much. And I do think that these two guys are going to wrestle more than one match. So that's just me. And again, this whole thing between the Hurt Syndicate and Swerve Strickland is not going to end after one pay-per-view. So keep that in mind. But I got Bobby Lashley over Swerve. All right, next up, we got another title match here, singles match for the AEW TNT Championship. The champion Jack Perry defends against Daniel Garcia. And in this one, I think it's going to be a true singles match because the Elite's really not a thing right now. You know, the Young Bucks, since losing the tag titles, are gone. And Okada's hasn't really been seen much. You know, we've been seeing kind of video packages with him preparing for the Continental Classic, which will take place next week, starting next Wednesday on Dynamite. But Jack Perry's, for the most part, been on his own. And he's kind of had this back and forth with Garcia recently, ever since Daniel Garcia challenged him for the TNT title. And we see Jack Perry and Daniel Garcia have these exchanges backstage where Jack Perry's basically telling Daniel Garcia, he's not ready, so on and so forth. You're not ready for a real challenge. You're not ready to challenge for the TNT title. But he ended up accepting the match. And in recent weeks, we've seen Jack Perry, I think it was the last week on Collision last Saturday, where Jack Perry came out during Daniel Garcia's match and attacked his friend Matt Menard, beat him up, sent him to the back, and then we saw that incident in the parking lot where Jack Perry was going to drag Matt Menard with his by a chain, with the scapegoat bus, and then Daniel Garcia came in to make the save, and they beat on Jack Perry. They basically beat him up, and they freaking tied him up, chained him up to the hood of the scapegoat, his scapegoat bus. And then we saw on Wednesday, we saw a situation, we saw a segment where Daniel Garcia had Jack Perry tied up to a chair, and it looked like they was going to beat the shit out of him and torture him or whatever. But instead, he took like a crowbar and just basically smashed up Jack Perry's scapegoat bus, and then basically pretty much walked out. So that is the lead into this match. And for these two guys, two of the better wrestlers, obviously Daniel Garcia, they're really trying to push him as a solidified, singles guy. And, with some people it's getting over, with some people not so much. But I personally think he's a decent enough wrestler. I'm not personally my favorite, but I think, AEW knows what they're doing, or well, they should. But but I do think, he's got a ways to go, but I do think, he's on that track. And as for Jack Perry, kind of same thing. He's a long-time AEW talent. He's been around since the beginning. And ever since this, I guess you could say, heel turn, him joining the Elite and doing the whole scapegoat thing. And he's kind of really reinvented himself in a way. And he's not exactly everybody's cup of tea either since the CM Punk incident. But he is, he's been solid. He's had some solid outings. So I expect these two to have a quality match on this pay-per-view. As to who wins, kind of a toss-up match here. You can see Daniel Garcia pulling it out, you can see Daniel Garcia pulling it out and winning this TNT title. You can see Jack Perry retaining. Personally, I'm leaning towards the former. I personally think that I personally think that Daniel Garcia is going to find it in himself to find that, quote, killer instinct and to take things to that, quote, next level, especially with what we've seen with him recently. And I think Daniel Garcia is going to pull I guess you couldn't call it an upset, but I think Daniel Garcia is going to shock a lot of people, and he's going to win the TNT title here from Jack Perry. I get that feeling. I just get that sneaking suspicion. It may not happen at this pay-per-view, but I do think it's going to happen eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and call it now, just based on what we've seen recently. I personally think Daniel Garcia is going to pull this out, and he's going to soundly defeat Jack Perry here. And he is going to win the TNT title, his first single, to my immediate knowledge, his first singles title in AEW. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. But I do think that Daniel Garcia is going to win this one here. Now, I can see Jack Perry retaining just as easily. So, again, this is a toss-up match for me. But I got to go with Daniel Garcia winning. And this will be the first, at this point, title change here on the show. But yeah, Daniel Garcia, give me Daniel Garcia the challenger over Jack Perry the champion. Daniel Garcia wins the TNT title. That's my call. That's my prediction. Moving on. All right, so we get another grudge match here, and one that I'm sure will be a top 2, top 3 match on the show, just based on the individuals involved. It is going to be the much anticipated singles match between Will Ospreay and former partner in the United Kingdom, and so on and so forth, that being Kyle Fletcher. So we've seen the transformation of Kyle Fletcher since he turned on Will Ospreay in his last match, basically costing him the international title in that three-way back at Wrestle Dream, which resulted in Konosuke Takeshita being, the champion. Was it Wrestle Dream or was it All Out? Actually, I think it was All Out. I think it was All Out back in September because Will Ospreay's been out for some time, and I don't think they made an appearance at Wrestle Dream. But yeah, we see this transformation of Kyle Fletcher, ever since he turned on Will Ospreay, and obviously heavily influenced by Don Callis. And we've seen these promos that he's cut in the ring where he said, I'm going to be better than you. I'm not going to be like you, and so on and so forth, shaving his head and so on and so forth. And then recently, like a couple weeks ago, Will Ospreay finally made his return, and we've seen obviously the back and forth. We saw that very fiery promo between the two on last week's Dynamite. We got Mark Davis, of course, Kyle Fletcher's former tag partner in Aussie Open, who's recently reappeared, and he's trying to snap Kyle Fletcher out of it, back into his senses or whatever. But again, to no avail. And I'm sure Mark Davis at some point is going to make an appearance in this match. I don't know if he's going to necessarily interfere, but I do think he's going to have somewhat of an influence in this match. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a solid singles match. We're probably going to see Don Callis at some point, intervene from commentary or at ringside. But this is going to be a very, very high caliber match, especially, Will Ospreay is Will Ospreay, one of the best in the world. And he's, on any given night, he's going to pull out at least a high 4-star, 3-star match, a match of the night candidate anytime he wrestles. Like he's capable of pulling that. He's capable of pulling a quality match out of anybody, much like Swerve. Will Ospreay is a guy who can pull a quality match out of anybody. One of the best in the world right now. That's not just a moniker. Will Ospreay is at the top of his game, top of the class in terms of wrestling. And Kyle Fletcher has proven in the past that he can hold his own with anybody too. Like he's got that potential as well. So these are two very high class, high caliber athletes, two high caliber wrestlers, and they're in this grudge match here, and I think they're going to put on a show. I think this is another show stealer, potential match of the year candidate, depending on how it goes. I think Will Ospreay, obviously, he's been in a number of match of the year candidates already, and him versus Kyle Fletcher here, who's capable of putting on a really good match. I think it's gonna be something to look forward to, man. I think this is gonna be one of the better matches, one of the better pay-per-view matches all year that we see, and that's saying something because we've already seen a lot of them, especially at AEW. But I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing how it plays out. I think these two guys are going to steal the show. I think it's going to be a show-stealing match. It's going to be an A++ match, potential 4-star, potential 5-star match. We'll see. As to who wins, kind of a toss-up, man. Another toss-up. Like, ordinarily you would say Will Ospreay. He wants to get retribution on his former friend for costing him the international title. And again, further payback against the Don Callis family for basically being a thorn in the side. I can see them giving the win to Kyle Fletcher too. I mean, again, like I mentioned before, we may see Mark Davis pay dividends in this match, or get intervened. We may see, obviously, the Don Callis family get involved at some point, which I expect. But I can see them giving, like, if they want to establish Kyle Fletcher as a serious threat in terms of being a singles wrestler in the singles division in AEW. There would be no better way to do it than giving him a win over his former mentor, his former partner, that being Will Ospreay. So I can see them going that route too. But it's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be a very close call for me. This match is going to be a very close call for me. I got to give it to Will Ospreay. I just think Will Ospreay is going to pull it out, overcome the odds by hook or by crook, and he's going to get this victory. He's going to shine once again over he's going to down his former partner here, that being Kyle Fletcher. But I don't think that this is going to end on one match. Just remember that. I don't think it's going to end with one match. So we'll see what happens. But I can give me Will Ospreay over Kyle Fletcher. Next up, we have our next match here for the AEW International Championship. 2 matches to go. This one being for the International Championship. The champion, Konosuke Takeshita, defends against Ricochet. We see these two guys go back and forth, ever since Konosuke won the title in that 3-way, as I mentioned earlier, with he, Will Ospreay, and Ricochet in that three-way back at All Out. Konosuke Takeshita has been a solid champion. He hasn't defended the title much. We haven't really seen him wrestle a whole lot. I think he's had like one title defense up to this point, maybe two. I could be wrong, but he's wrestled very sparingly since then, and more so because again the whole Kyle Fletcher thing with Will Ospreay. But yeah, Konosuke is a solid act, a solid wrestler, and obviously the fans take notice of it. That's why they've kind of been getting behind him. I think that's the reason why they put the title on him, the international title. And so I look for him to continue his reign. And he's another guy who's capable of getting a really producing a really solid match on any given night. So I expect him to do that here. And Ricochet's been really impressive since he debuted in AEW. He's had some high caliber he's had some quality matches as well. Not my personal favorite, like coming out of his time in WWE, but we've seen we've seen what Ricochet can do now that the chains, if you will, the shackles of WWE, are no longer. We've seen what he can do. That he's no longer restrained by the limits, the limitations that WWE put on him. And he's another guy who, on any given night, he can pull an excellent match or a quality match out of just about anybody. So I expect these two guys to have a solid outing. And based on the exchanges we've seen from them thus far, and Ricochet has gotten the better of Konosuke in previous weeks. I believe he got a pin on him in a tag match, and so yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be pretty physical. It's gonna be very intense. Obviously Ricochet brings that high flying offense, and Konosuke is more of a ground based striker, and he can be very technically sound as well. So I think it's gonna be a nice mesh, clash of styles if you want this match, so to speak. So I think it's gonna be another solid outing here. As to who wins, I gotta give it to Takeshita here. I just don't see him dropping the title here. All due respect to Ricochet, I do think he's worthy of at least a title in the future, like in terms of like a mid card title, something like that, maybe the TNT title or even the international title at some point. But I just don't see him winning on this night. So give me Konosuke Takeshita to retain over Ricochet here. I think it'll be a quality outing though. And then finally, our main event, which will more than likely be our main event here, singles match for the AEW World Championship. The champion Jon Moxley defends against challenger Orange Cassidy. We've seen Jon Moxley and his team, the Death Riders, run roughshod over AEW the last couple months. Ever since, before he won the title, he, obviously choked out Bryan Danielson with the bag back at All Out after Bryan Danielson's main event match. And then we saw him take the title from Bryan Danielson, effectively ending his career. Per the stipulation, or Bryan Danielson basically said if he lost, he was going to retire. So he basically put Bryan Danielson on the shelf, forced him to retire. And ever since then, the Death Riders have run roughshod over everybody in AEW, and Jon Moxley's cut these cryptic promos where he's basically saying nobody is ready, abandon all hope. This is our company now. We're going to do what we want, and nobody's going to stop us. Various Jon Moxley being Jon Moxley. And here, with this match, Orange Cassidy has been one of the first to kind of step up to the plate and challenge Jon Moxley and reclaim the AEW World Championship and take back the quote-unquote power for AEW, since he is one of the guys right now who is representing AEW. Now, we saw what happened a couple weeks ago where Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, took out, of course, Orange Cassidy's longtime friend Chuck Taylor, who is no longer a wrestler. He's like a producer, because he, again, suffered an injury last year. So he's unfortunately no longer going to, he's unfortunately done with, in terms of a pro wrestler. But we saw Jon Moxley and, the Death Riders' heinous attack on Chuck Taylor, crushing his neck, pilbanizing his neck. And yeah. So obviously we've seen kind of somewhat of a transformation with Orange Cassidy, where he's like wearing the dark pants and he's a little more aggressive in his matches, but he's still the same character, still the same Orange Cassidy, cuts the same promos, and so, but he's basically stepping up to the plate here. He's representing AEW, if you will, and going against the threat of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. So we've seen these two guys wrestle a multitude of times. Last year over the international title, Jon Moxley took the title from Orange Cassidy, and then Orange Cassidy won it back. They had a rematch at Full Gear last year, and this, was brought up in a promo. Orange Cassidy actually defeated Jon Moxley at Full Gear last year over the international title. So these two guys have wrestled each other a number of times. within the last calendar year. But this one's a little different. This match has a little different of a feel with Jon Moxley and this whole Death Rider scenario, and obviously the importance of Orange Cassidy avenging his friends, or avenging his friend, avenging the other AEW talents, with again the Death Riders running roughshod and reclaiming the AEW World's title or winning the World's title for the first time. And so this ought to be a solid match. These two guys, their previous matches have been pretty damn solid. Their last couple pay-per-view matches have been really good, really quality. I look to see more of that here, and I think both guys are going to put on a show. It's definitely going to be a top 3 match, as you would expect. It's going to be the main event. It's going to be the final match of the show, and I look for both guys to definitely pull out the stops in this main event match here for the AEW World's title for the top prize in pro wrestling, that being the AEW World's title. So I look forward to it. I very much look forward to seeing how this one plays out. As to who wins, I gotta give it to Jon Moxley, man. I don't see Orange Cassidy being the one to dethrone Moxley. I just don't see it. It's really technically, if you think about it, it's Jon Moxley's first title defense since winning the title back at our Wrestle Dream. So I just don't see Moxley dropping the title here. I don't think Orange Cassidy is going to be the man to dethrone Jon Moxley. It's just I just don't see it. I don't see it. Nothing against Orange Cassidy. I just don't see him winning the title. And I think it's going to be some time before we get a true challenger to Jon Moxley who can truly dethrone Jon Moxley and truly dethrone the Death Riders from their perch at the top of AEW. They're truly be the hero, if you will, that thwarts the threat of the Death Riders and reclaims the AEW World's title from them and from Jon Moxley. So, but with that being said, I think Jon Moxley wins this match. He retains the title, and for the next, at the very least, till the end of the year, we're going to see the Death Riders reign supreme on AEW, and we'll see what the fallout is. We'll see how Orange Cassidy, how he handles not getting the job done. We'll see if there's any more of a change or transformation or an evolution of him as a wrestler. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. But yeah, so that's what I think of that match. So with that being said, those are all the matches. Those are all 10 matches there. And those are all my predictions for said matches. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for that. But like I said before, just based on the strength of this card, the matches that I ran down, there's a number of them that I'm really looking forward to. The J match, Hangman Page rematch, MJF Roderick Strong, the 4-way tag match, Mercedes Moné, Chris Statlander, Bobby Lashley, Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, the main event, like I said, world title match, Moxley and Orange Cassidy. There's a number of matches on this card. I think this is a very solid, very strong card for AEW in terms of pay-per-view. So I personally think it's going to be one of the better shows that they put on, and we'll see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to seeing what they do on pay-per-view on Saturday here. But anyway, that's pretty much going to do it for that. Those are all the matches, my predictions, and that is going to conclude my AEW Full Gear 2024 predictions video. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate those of you who watched up to this point. I know this video's run kind of long. It's been 40 plus minutes, but again, these predictions videos run long because I have a lot to say. I tend to have a lot to say. I do say I'm going to run through it quickly, but I tend to have a lot to say. But anyway, that's pretty much going to do it for that. So thank you for watching this. If you guys enjoyed it, if you guys liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, give me your thoughts on Full Gear. If you guys are going to be watching it, what match are you looking forward to? If you guys have any predictions of your own, hit me up in the comments, let me know. And be sure to subscribe to the channel, man, if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support you get. After that being said, that's pretty much going to do it, man. So it is late night. I'm going to call it a night here in a little bit. So want to go ahead and wrap this video up. For those of you who are going to be watching Full Gear on Saturday, hope you guys enjoy it. I know I will. I'm going to try to get it. I'm going to try to catch the pay-per-view. I do work that day, but I do get off at 6, so I'll be home in time for the show. So I will be watching it. So it's gonna be a quality pay-per-view. I know for a fact AEW is gonna put on another banger show. So if you guys watch it, hope you enjoy it. It will be an enjoyable show. And yeah, so I'll see you guys then. But that's pretty much all I gotta say for this. So thank you for watching once again. Enjoy the rest of your night. Hope you all have a good weekend. I'll see you guys in the next video between now and Saturday or whenever I upload a video next. So thanks for watching once again. Till next time, Wrestle Otaku, I'm out. See you guys later. Fuck the haters, and long live AEW. I'm out. Peace.